Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot. The comic spot. Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot.
Hi, it's me again. This is the third time you get to see me today. This is interview number 3 today. Danielle Kerr is here today. Let me read you her intro. Danielle Kerr, the lady over there, is a stand-up comedian based in Toronto. In case you don't know, it's not in the United States. It's in North America for all you geographical wizards. Yeah, Canada is part of North America. Toronto, Canada. Danielle Kerr, stand-up based in Toronto. Looking to change the game in the queer comedy content. Proudly asexual, she uses her growing platform to educate on asexual issues and the ace experience. And I might have said that wrong. I was trying to read it and make it make sense at the same time. Was that said in the right way? She offers a fresh perspective to the world of dating, sex, and relationships. She's currently growing as a producer of stand-up comedy showcases and is developing a autobiographical sitcom. This lady's all over the place. She is amazeballs. Oh my gosh. Danielle, I just learned about you. I don't read it ahead of time. I'm so impressed. You must be all of like 18 years old. Don't tell me we're frozen. You got to come back, Danielle. Come on, internet gods. Is there an internet god out there? I'm going to sit here and wait for a minute and see if the internet comes back. This is so stressful for people. Oh my gosh. I think we're having my internet.
Yes.
You're back. My gosh. Hi.
I'm 25. Is this
25.
better?
Wow. It keeps freezing up.
Hi. Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and talk about your life, who you were at home, in school, after school, and now in comedy, and I won't interrupt.
Sure. So basically, I've kind of been a jack of all trades my whole life. Very mediocre in high school, but I went down like the performing arts and visual arts corner and kind of never looked back. Before getting into comedy, which is still relatively new for me, I studied both interior design and graphic design. And outside of comedy, graphic design is pretty much what I'm doing now. Local to my house. Which is, and fell in love and haven't looked back.
Danielle, I'm going to have to interrupt. I'm going to have
to and growing.
I'm going to have to ask you one more time. We're going to try it one more time to start from the beginning. And if it times out again, we'll redo this like tomorrow because it timed out.
Good.
Let's try it one more time from the top. Take 2.
Okay. So I have pretty much been a jack of all trades my whole life. I've got a ton of interests, all of them mostly relating to the creative arts, so visual arts, design, and performing arts. Obviously, as I'm here to talk about my comedy.
No, that's beautiful. It plays into it.
Yeah, you know, I've studied a lot. I started out in interior design and kind of realized that wasn't for me. Opted for graphic design, and that has turned into a really great career. Stand-up comedy, I took it up this year because I really wanted to challenge myself and try something new, and I fell in love, and my stand-up career has grown quicker than I ever thought it would. It went from a class I took at Second City in Toronto, Canada, to having a bunch of booked shows and producing and getting asked to develop and work on this sitcom. So I'm very blessed in the world of stand-up comedy. I've come a long way in a very short time.
That's so cool. What's the name of the sitcom? Are you allowed to say?
Yes, so it's currently in development. The show is called Comedian.
Just a sec. Can you say that again? The
Coming
name
up in the world of comedy.
Can you start with the
It
name?
was
Can you start over with the name of the show? It went out again.
Yes. The show is called Ace, and I'm currently developing it with an actor and filmmaker named Cassidy Siviero. It was really funny, actually. It was at an open mic when they approached me and asked me to work on it with them. So far we have a pilot script written. We're developing what's called a pitch deck, so outlining the rest of the season and what potential other seasons could look like, and trying to get a producer at the same time. And the show itself is semi-autobiographical. It revolves around an asexual comedian coming up in the world of comedy. So that's one of the main themes. It also looks at what it means to kind of be asexual and kind of getting that representation out there, because right now asexuality is not something that's talked about a lot. The other thing that makes our show unique is when asexuality is discussed in the media, it tends to get erased to a degree, or there's the coming out storyline, and the character I have written based on myself is someone who is already out and proud. So it's going to look at asexuality as something that's very normal, not something that has to be contended with, but it also deals with themes of celebrity worship syndrome and growing fame, sexism in the world of comedy to a degree. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I probably sound like I'm bragging a whole lot. I promise I'm not.
Oh my
That's not
gosh, you have a lot to brag about. Brag.
But yeah,
So, so
that's
that's
how my life.
so exciting. So exciting. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
What is it that you do outside of your life when you're not involved with everything you're doing with Ace, your sitcom, and doing your own stand-up, and graphic design probably still is a part of your life?
Oh, it's a huge part. I have a great job at my mom's company. Actually, I've been helping build it from the ground up. It's really, really rewarding work as well. Well, it's a consulting agency that focuses on development of education in sort of the developing world, primarily secondary education. And I've really helped the company grow and seen it from the onset, which has been a really rewarding experience.
Fabulous. When you're not working and you're just having fun, who is Danielle Kerr when you're out forgetting about any kind of work?
I like to consider myself a very adventurous person, and that doesn't always mean like flying on the next trip to getting on the next plane to Bali because I can't afford that yet. But I do try to find adventure in my everyday life. So I'm constantly looking for new restaurants to try, concerts to attend, clubs and shows to go to. I'm also a huge reader. I love reading books. I read a lot of memoirs from successful people. I also love listening to them because you really get to hear the person tell their story and you hear the emotion as they're telling it. And I have an amazing and diverse group of friends who I dedicate a lot of my time to, as well as my family. We have a lot of amazing traditions that I stick to every year. Um, Huge horror movie fanatic and a huge baker as well.
Wow. What's your favorite horror show of all time?
All right, the absolute favorite for me is definitely The Shining. I never get bored of it. Um, it's also maybe not like the scariest thing out there because it was made in 1980 and we've obviously come a long way in what horror is able to accomplish from a storytelling and special effects perspective. But it's super fascinating to figure out. Stanley Kubrick really knew what he was doing. I'm up to date on all of the Shining theories and things that people are talking about with it. I love that it's sort of transcended so many generations and people my age are watching it and talking about it. It hasn't kind of
Yes.
like faded into the background the way some other horror franchises have.
Did you ever watch Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte?
No, I haven't.
That's really old. It's something I grew up watching with Betty Davis when she had a sister, and I think her sister was trying to kill her with food, and she winds up pushing her sister down the staircase or something. I don't even remember exactly. It's so long ago, but it's so well. Betty Davis is the ultimate scary actress in there.
Oh wow, I'll definitely have to check it out. I know it must be ironic, someone who does comedy being in love with a horror movie.
I know. It's so fun, like you said, to watch people when they actually are being themselves, getting interviewed or talking, and you really get to know the actor or comedian and their passion. And like I've watched Betty Davis on the Tonight Show, and then you get a sense of who she is behind the actress.
Yeah, I've never been someone who really understands celebrity crushes. I used to make them up in the fourth grade and stuff when everyone had one. And I had the least believable celebrity crushes of all time. I didn't choose anyone that any of my friends were in love with. Like I grew up in the age of like Justin Bieber and Zac Efron on like these little sweet teenage boys. And I was like, no, I'm going to pick the only basketball player in the NBA that I know because my family are huge Raptors fans.
Who'd you pick?
At the time, Chris Bosh was the star player. So Chris Bosh, who's still in the NBA to this day, was my celebrity crush that I made up. But certainly having access to interviews, it makes you really like understand the person, and that's always what relationships have meant to me, is the person.
Absolutely. It sounds like you really appreciate friends and put a lot of thought and time into family and friends, and that is so amazing. I'm really impressed with the young people today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, my whole comedy set right now is all about the young people and quit bashing them.
I really appreciate that. Like there are a lot of people who I've met of all ages, and the older people I've met don't necessarily conform to the whole young people are stupid, like they don't know what they're doing. And the people who do, I don't understand it because they're the ones who raised us.
Thank you. How hypocritical. Yeah. And even, like there's stupid things about baby boomers, and then that just makes us fight with each other.
Yeah. I mean, I've even seen shows where it's like, I don't know if you've ever watched the show Survivor, but they did a whole season where it was like a battle of the generations.
No way. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they called it Millennial versus Gen X, and it was a great, hilarious season. You had a couple of Gen Xers who were like, I'm actually such a millennial. And even a couple of like millennials who were like, well, I don't have a cell phone. I fit in more with the older people, but here I am.
That would be funny to watch. I'll have to go look at that. As I've done a lot of research about the different groups of, the different generations, and I don't identify as a baby boomer at all.
Yeah. I mean, even in like the world today, like on social media, boomers are getting such a bad rep, and I don't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah, it's individualized. You know what I'm really impressed about with young people is how they believe in being kind. That's something that, if you go back to the history of baby boomers and their parents, kindness was seen as a weakness.
Yeah, even articles I read about getting up there in the workplace. Hey, in a corporate environment, it's you've got to cut a ton of people down. You've got to be a bit of a bitch or an asshole, and that's how you get ahead. And I think that it's perfectly reasonable to get ahead by being while also being a decent person.
I hope that, in the world, there's a lot of craziness that's been going on in the world. And it didn't just start with the pandemic, but I just really hope that I'm just putting all my money on that love and kindness has to win at the end. All this fighting and bickering that's going on, that I just hope that there's a big prize at the end of this game called life, that being kind really does pay off.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
There's just, when sometimes I'll be in line at a store and I feel grouchy about somebody that's a clerk doesn't know what they're doing, and I might turn around and complain to somebody younger than me in line behind me. And I usually get a response like, basically, why can't you be cool and chill and kind about it? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I've still got a lot of work to do because I come from that era where we just bitched.
Yeah, I certainly think that customer service, working in it, lends a lot to compassion because even if you're in a place where someone is like new at their job, you have compassion for them. But at the same time, if someone is giving bad service, you're like, I'm still going to tip them, but they're giving bad service.
Yes, absolutely. What is it that you want to accomplish in say the next year and in the rest of your life?
So, my goal, comedy wise, is definitely to see this sitcom get off the ground for real. I think that they're at the risk of getting braggy again, isn't anything like it on the air today. And
Yes.
I also really want to grow as a comedy producer. I'm currently producing a show with a comedian friend of mine called Linda Camacho, and we're calling it Comedy Out Loud. And our goal was to give voices to comedians who actually have something to say. A lot of the world of stand-up comedy is dominated by people who, are cocky and arrogant. That's kind of a hallmark of being a comedian. You have to be able to go up there and think you can make people laugh. But they talk about the sort of standard things. They'll talk about, oh, the women they get with and the drugs that they do and how privileged they are. And I really want to, in my comedy productions, give voices to people who want to talk about meaningful things, because there's a lot of people who go into comedy and are just saying things to say them. And I want to change that.
Wow. That's amazing. That's going to be that's a great step in the right direction in comedy. And if you can help foster that in the minds of comics, that's fabulous. Priceless.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So you're in Toronto, Canada, is that right?
Yes.
What's the comedy in a nutshell other than wonderful and amazing? Tell me, describe the comedy scene in Toronto for us that aren't up there.
The comedy scene in Toronto is really great. It's a really close knit community, so everyone knows everyone. But every open mic I've ever been to, which is where I got my start, there's been an incredibly supportive audience, and there are a lot of comics who have something to say, and it's just a very kind environment that I'm grateful to be a part of.
That's great. So there, I know Laughs, the big festival happens in Canada, and I don't know, is that in Toronto?
Yeah, I believe Just for Laughs travels across Canada, but it did come to Toronto this year. I did attend it.
Yeah. What was that like?
Yeah. I saw Amy Schumer find me, and I'd never been to the stadium before at the comedy show. It was news to me that they make you put your phone in like a locked pouch, ouch, and turn it off and everything, which I didn't mind, because the difference between, comedy and a concert is when you have comedy, it's just one person up there just talking and telling their life story, and you really want to pay respect to that. And a lot of times at a concert, you're getting people who are performing great live, but you can also hear their songs on the radio or Apple Music. And I've always preferred live music to anything on the radio. It's a great experience, but there's something about comedy that's just so intimate.
Yes, yes. So, what was a couple of the high points besides Amy Schumer at Just for Laughs this last year for you?
Honestly, the comedians who opened for her were fantastic. One of them was Mia Jackson. She's one of my favorite comedians. We both relate to being exceptionally tall, and like the comedy she does is some of the comedy I've related to the most outside of something I've written myself. And it's really great when you can hear yourself in someone else's experience.
I like that. So Mia and Amy Schumer are both here in Vegas. Last night they did a show.
Oh yeah, I believe Mia opened. Yeah, I believe she tours with Amy Schumer regularly, so that's not a surprise. I'd love to go to Vegas at some point.
Yeah, look me up if you come. We'll go we'll go to a show together or whatever. Get you on a show somehow.
Well, I'd
You probably get
absolutely
on
love
your own shows, but if not,
that.
holler. Get you on
Yeah,
something.
I mean, it's been really great to connect with you. So if I ever am in Vegas, which hopefully soon, I think it'd be a really fun place to go.
Yeah. So, um, what would you like to tell people who are listening to take away from all that you are? You mentioned you're changing the landscape of what people know and feel about being asexual. Do you want to speak to that, or is that something you don't really want to give energy to?
Oh, no, I'd love to talk about it. So, coming out as asexual, it's almost different than coming out as something else within the queer community because it's not as known. So when you come out as gay or lesbian or bisexual, a lot of people, especially older people, understand that quickly. And while you face your fair share of strife and people who disagree with it or think it can be fixed, you also get that when you're asexual, but you also have a lot of people, and I get this from young people, I get this from older people, they have a lot of questions. A lot of people will say things like, oh, you just haven't met the right person yet, or you just haven't had great sex, or, it's just the medication you're on. I've heard it all. And I've had people be like, oh, like it's just a low libido. And it's different and it's some people's unique experience. And I think the important thing to understand and note when dealing with asexual people is that they are very capable of love and relationships, and they're deserving of it. So that's what I hope to get across in my comedy. I hope that when I talk about it, I am educating people on it. I'm giving people awareness because it is a meaningful experience to people. And, when I kind of came to this realization about myself, there was a lot of liberation in that because I did spend a lot of years, confused as to why other people were having these experiences and I wasn't. So coming out as anything can be a really liberating experience. And I hope that people understand that it's the same thing for people who are asexual or aromantic, which is the sort of companion to asexuality, which is you don't experience romantic attraction.
Yes. And do you have both?
Um, no, I think I'm mostly asexual. I can experience romantic attraction, not as frequently, it takes a lot, but when it does happen, it is, incredibly meaningful to me. And when I'm with a partner, I hope that they understand that the reason I'm with them is out of like deep love and respect rather than, for their looks, because that doesn't do it for me.
That's super. It's actually, in some ways, better attraction. It's deeper.
Yeah.
Everybody is so unique, and there's so much openness and tolerance now for everything under the sun, and I know there's still hate groups out there. I'm not stupid, but there's been such a shift from my day, my parents' day, where the only group of people that were made fun of that were different sexually were gays. Like there wasn't even a thing called the lesbian. I mean, it wasn't even talked about, and now there's a whole spectrum of understanding for us older people. And I think that's amazing that older people are opening up their elasticity inside their mind to give freedom, and not be judgmental. It's a huge, big deal.
Yeah, we've really come a long way.
Yeah. And there's always, a ways to still go. And there's always going to be judgmental people. I mean, and it's nothing to make light of, because some people get, as coming out sometimes also comes with a price of depression, suicidal ideations, thoughts of, wanting to take your own life. And we need to embrace each other's differences to avoid needless suicide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
It's a sad reality, but it is a reality.
it is a reality. Absolutely. So, having said that, I just thank you so much for being in the forefront and helping through your comedy and your life and your honesty, openness, to make asexual something that being asexual known to people, so that, those people out there that have no idea will hear about it and open up their minds to it. That's amazing that I haven't heard of anybody else who is asexual out there speaking about it in comedy. You are unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a very small portion of the population that identifies that way.
That makes you very unique
But
in comedy.
if I can give a voice to those people, then my comedy means something. And that's all I could ever want.
Absolutely. I wish you the very best with that. So, Danielle, would you tell the viewers, all one of them perhaps that's watching right now, and 4 million that will watch it by the end of the day, or whatever, in the next lifetime on my YouTube, could you tell people where to follow you? Because I think you might outlive me. I'm not sure.
Yes. So I can be followed. I have my primary account, which is just my life and my comedy Instagram accounts. So those two handles are for my primary Instagram account at Danielle Kimberly. I can write it down for you somewhere so you can put it on the screen. I don't know how you want to do that. And comedy wise, on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, TikTok and Instagram, I am that one ace comedian. And on Twitter, because they limit the number of characters our username can be, I am that ace comedian.
Thank you so much for that. When we get off of here, if you will type the way we've been communicating, type those handles, I will add it onto the post.
Sounds great. I will do that.
All right. And as far as you go, you've been a delight, and you're so brilliantly smart. And I wish I was up in Toronto to watch you rise even more. What a great success story you are already. I can't think of anything better for me to have experienced than to be with you. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you. Anytime. And that goes for Linda Camacho. I hear you're connected with her. I've seen her all over the internet on social media. Anytime either of you are doing anything and want to plug it, holler at me and let me get you on here for 5 or 10.
All right. Sounds great. I will let her know. Thank you so much for talking with me. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you want to spread the word and plug things with other people, I know other people that love to have guests on to help promote as well.
all right. Thank you
You're
so
a real
much.
delight. Thank you, Danielle Kerr.
Thank you.
Bye.